Welcome to the Gilded Heiresses. I'm your host, Julie Montague, Countess of Sandwich and Gilded Age historian. And in today's episode, we're turning up the gramophone, shaking up some cocktails, and heading to the unexpected epicenter of post-war hedonism, the British drawing room. Yes, really. As the 1920s dawned, American jazz, cocktails, and a new sense of social liberation made their way across the Atlantic, bringing with them a cultural revolution that even Britain's stiffest upper lips couldn't quite resist. And at the heart of this transformation, a new generation of bold, boundary-pushing women, many of them American heiresses, who knew how to throw a party and shake up tradition in equal measure. The First World War had upended society in countless ways. But among the elite, it also triggered a curious cultural shift. Traditional entertainments like formal dinners, country sports, and classical recitals suddenly seemed outdated. In their place came something altogether more modern: jazz. Brought over by American performers and popularized by Black musicians such as Sidney Bechet and Louis Mitchell, jazz was thrilling, unpredictable, and, most importantly, controversial. Perhaps unsurprisingly, British society's older generation viewed it with suspicion, often branding it vulgar. But to the post-war generation of young hostesses and debutantes, it was irresistible. Among its most enthusiastic champions was Lady Maud Cunard, known to all as Emerald, an American-born socialite who hosted some of London's most dazzling parties. Her soirees became legendary, blending aristocrats, artists, politicians, and musicians in ways that defied the usual rules of class and decorum. Her Cavendish Square drawing room was reportedly one of the first private residences in London to regularly feature live jazz performances. The collective grief of post-war Europe created fertile ground for jazz's infectious new sound to take root. The new music, messy, loud, and in constant flux, felt like an opportunity for rebellion. And for many women of the Gilded Age and its aftermath, it was the sound of freedom. As the soundtrack changed, so too did the drinks menu. Though cocktails had been enjoyed in America since at least the mid-19th century, Prohibition sent bartenders and socialites alike across the Atlantic in search of more hospitable shores. And in the process, they brought their mixology skills and recipes with them. Enter the British cocktail party. American-born Nancy Astor is often credited with helping to introduce and popularize the idea of informal pre-dinner drinks in elite British society. Though not a drinker herself, Nancy recognized the social power of the cocktail hour. It was casual, democratic, and a world away from the rigid hierarchy of formal Edwardian dinners. Cocktails like the Sidecar, French 75, and Gin Ricky began appearing in fashionable London households. Bartenders from New York's Waldorf Astoria and Paris's Ritz were poached by wealthy British hosts seeking to impress their guests with the latest trends. According to the Savoy Cocktail Book, published in 1930 by famed bartender Harry Craddock, himself an American who fled Prohibition, the 1920s were a golden age for mixed drinks, and British society lapped them up. But all these new cultural imports needed champions, and they found them in a new type of hostess. American heiresses such as Consuelo Vanderbilt, Gladys Deacon, and Nancy Astor had already broken barriers by marrying into the British aristocracy. Now, they brought with them a sense of flair and informality that rippled through high society. Gone were the days of a drawing room piano recital or an after-dinner sherry. In its place, jazz trios, jazz gramophones, and even the Charleston, performed somewhat awkwardly beneath gilded ceilings. Diana Cooper, actress and daughter of the 8th Duke of Rutland, was another figure who embodied this shift. Known for her beauty, wit, and flair for spectacle, she often appeared at Jazz Age balls in costume, and once danced barefoot at a party hosted by Emerald Kennard. Hostesses began rearranging their drawing rooms to make space for dancing. Cocktail shakers and Art Deco glasses became as much a part of the tableware as the silverware. Women wore shorter dresses, bobbed their hair, and increasingly acted as cultural curators of their households, deciding the guest lists, choosing the music, and dictating the tone. Naturally, not everyone was thrilled. Older members of the aristocracy and conservative newspapers warned that jazz was a threat to national character. Critics accused cocktail parties of encouraging bad manners, poor health, and even marital infidelity. But while scandalized headlines bemoaned the new flapper culture, invitations to cocktail parties continued to pour in. Indeed, it was this very backlash that made the parties feel all the more daring. The tension between tradition and modernity became a defining feature of interwar society. Jazz, cocktails, and American-style entertaining weren't just fads. They were part of a broader social transformation, one in which women were increasingly at the center. By the 1930s, the cocktail hour was no longer a novelty, but an institution of British high society, one that embraced fun, flair, and a touch of American decadence. Today, their legacy lives on in every Art Deco bar, every smoky jazz record, and clinking cocktail glasses at 6 p.m. That's it for this episode of The Gilded Heiresses. I'm your host, Julie Montague. Until next time, cheers!